My typical day starts in the morning at home, actually. I like to get ahead of emails, and so I'll usually start checking emails and answering stuff. My job, I sort of split up into two areas. One is the desk stuff and the lab stuff, and clearly I love doing the lab stuff a lot more, so I try to do as much as the desk stuff at home. So when I arrive to the lab, I work at a national security lab, so the security force checks our badges, and I hold a top security clearance. And so my badge is a little different than some of the other people that maybe don't have that kind of clearance. And so it's a badge that they sometimes even run through a scanner to make sure that I'm still able to have that clearance and that it's still active. So once he does that, I then proceed on and I get to my office and I'll finish up whatever things I have left to do, if I have to answer an email, if I have to meet with somebody, and then I'll go into the lab. And in the lab, I do a lot of work with biology, so there's a lot of things that require daily maintenance. It's almost like having a pet. You have to feed these things, you have to make sure and check up on them and see how they're doing. So there's a lot of maintenance stuff that goes on. And then there's the plain science part that I just love to do, which is 3D bioprinting. And so oftentimes we're developing different bioinks. And that means making sure that these inks are something that the cells work with, but that we can also print with. So I do a lot of testing of the materials, and also checking up on the cells. The lab is pretty big. It's 1 square mile. So I'm a runner, and I like to get running in. And sometimes I tend to work pretty late at the lab, so it'll be dark, but I really like running outside. And one of the good things about being at a lab that has a lot of security is that it's an incredibly safe place to be. So I don't mind going for a run at like 7 at night when it's dark, because I know that it's the kind of place where we have a lot of the security people walking around and patrolling the lab. So even when my work is done, I still kind of hang out at the lab and get my run in before I actually go home. So when I'm not in the lab, I am usually talking about science with people or planning to do science with people. And so those are usually in the form of meetings. So a lot of what I do is also go to meetings. And these meetings can sometimes be pretty fun too, because sometimes you have meetings to talk about like, hey, why isn't this working? Which part are you doing and how is your part affecting my part and stuff like that. And so that's pretty cool because that's the design piece of it. So even if you're not physically doing something, you're still thinking about how to fix a problem. And sometimes it's kind of fun because we'll go up on a whiteboard and start sketching things out and trying to figure out what to do. So those are probably the more fun meetings that I have, are the ones where we're actively trying to brainstorm and come up with things.